does someone go from being I don't just mean someone. How did you go from being Scott Barber's wife to being Sat Shree's devotee?
And keep going. That's not all I am.
I know, but I want to focus on that.
So let's focus on that. Okay. So it's an interesting conversation. So when he woke up when he had his awakening in 1991, he was actually standing at his drafting table just about where you're sitting, filming me. So he's like right there. And he'd gone through about 2 or 3 months of dejection, and it had encapsulated. So the last 3 days were like hell with him before this happened.
What does his dejection look like from your perspective?
He just didn't want to be around. He was pushing everything and everyone around him away.
Because why? What was he saying?
He was going through a dejection, but he didn't know that. So for him, it was like, well, it's not me. It's all of you guys. It's my clients. It's my wife. It's my children. It's my family. It's everything in my life. I don't like the way it's working because I'm not feeling good. Mm-hmm. So
everything around me, all these people around me.
Oh yeah, they're all full of shit.
And they're bringing me down and
they're bringing me down, right?
That was kind of the story,
right? I don't like my circumstances, so I'm gonna push you all away. And then his brother had come to stay, and he made himself so scarce, Sat Shree did, that his brother left early. Right. And so Sat Shree comes home, and I'm like, well, your brother left. And he was pissed. He was angry. He was angry at me, and I had Sonia there, and my nephew was with us. And so Sat Shree acted out his anger. And then this went on for like 3 days where he wasn't even there. He would be down here working. He wouldn't talk to anybody. It was like, really? And then he had the awakening. So it was like this pressure. Like they say, the eye of the needle. He came to the eye of his needle, and he went through it and had this, and I could feel what's happening. I'm upstairs, and I'm experiencing something, and I have no idea what the hell it is. And then he comes upstairs, and I said to him, and he shares the story all the time. I sat up, and I'm like, what happened? And then he shared what happened. And I could experience energetically in my body the whole thing that he was talking about. And then he's sitting on the edge of the bed. So we're in the room where he lives, and you have the windows there, and you look out, and you just see the sky. And he's like, everywhere I'm looking, I see the universe. And all I could think of was, damn it, I want that same experience. But I also knew when I met him, Julian, that there was something different about him. And it's not, the infatuation of meeting somebody and, they're special, I'm in love with them. No, there was something else, a tangible quality. And even another friend of mine had said, she said, I want to see where he's going to go. In the next 10 or 20 years, it's going to reveal itself. Like, what's going to happen? And so when this did happen, I called her up and told her. And she was like, what the hell? Because nobody saw it going that way. They knew something was going to happen. So when he had his awakening, it was just like, but of course, this was supposed to happen.
Is that something you in that moment had full awareness of?
Yes.
Or
in that moment.
But still, there was a transition between being a wife to being a devotee.
So in the moment,
I want to hear about that.
There's complete understanding and awareness, because I'm an awareness being, so it all revealed itself. But it took about 3 months. So we have 3 months of a transition, Julian, where life is still pretty, at that point it kind of stabilized. He got over this thing hit him. And on the weekends, he would go into these states. So most of the time, he was just doing his work as an architect. Then he goes into silence for a month. And that's when the shit really started hitting the fan. Because all of a sudden it was like, I'm not going to speak for a month. I need to do this. And you get to handle my architectural business. And I was like, what? So then we know Sri Atman, at that point, he's now connected.
So you didn't have like stories coming up of like victim stories of like, why is this happening to me? Why is he doing this to me?
Yes. Well, it was like, what the hell's happening to my life? I can remember driving into work and coming to the stoplight over there at Mount Rose Highway and being at the red light and thinking, fuck, this is like, my life has become a soap opera. And it felt like I was living a life that I wasn't engaged in. I mean, it felt like this life had been overlaid on top of me. That's what it felt like.
Because your husband had been body snatched had become a different person?
Well, it took 3 months before the body snatching conversation. So for that first 3 months, it was pretty much nothing. And then there was a complete demarcation. So it was like 3 months of life just went back to pretty much normal.
And that demarcation was him making a decision?
He went up to Silver City, where Bhagavan has his little ashram, and stayed for a week. And knowing him very well, I said to him, okay, you're going up there for your 10 days of silence. Try not to do anything really radical. And he came back and went into silence for 21 days. So now we've always had a psychic connection. So he used to say to me, I can never get away with anything with you because you always know. And I do. I would always like, okay, where are you hiding the money? You know, I'd say something totally off the top of my head and be like, how do you know? And I'm like, what? So it was like, at that point, there was some part of me that knew that this was now going way off the charts. And it did.
Sure.
It went way off the charts. And so at that point, I'm like, it's just a whole new ball game. So he would come and work during the week. And then the weekends, he'd go live up in Silver City. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to be left behind on this one. So I just started going up and hanging out with the group, and Sonia, who was 15 at the time, would come up with us. And we meditate with the group, and we got starting to get to know people. And then in that September, Sri Atmananda came. And we met him at the airport. And I just remember the first time I met him. Now, he was looking forward to meeting Sat Shree because he'd talked to him on the phone. He had connected with him on the subtle plane or whatever plane they're connecting to. So he had some sense of, what was happening.
So it's like you made a decision, basically, if I can't beat him, join him?
Yep. And it felt like the right thing to do. I don't know how to say that. I never through this whole process, periodically I'll have a breakdown around this, but
still.
Even sometimes I just it's not Sat Shree, it's what this has become. But in those days, it was about his process. Our whole life became about his process. That's it.
Yeah, and so when you say sometimes a breakdown comes, is it because like I got completely left behind?
No, amazingly never felt that much about that. Early days,
it's all about him. What about me? Like that didn't come up?
Not really, because Julian, I don't know how to explain this. I always knew that this was supposed to happen. That was always there. That was the defining conversation. Though I went through 3 years of dejection when he left because my best friend left, my husband left, and he left me in charge of everything, gets on the airplane, doesn't even look back. And here I am. So I get to make a decision. And at that point, Bhagavan had already met with us, had already brought us both in together, and said, her job is to support your manifestation if you get there.
Uh-huh.
So, and then he talks to me separately and said, this is what I expect you, this is what I need you to do to support him. So I even had a purpose from the get-go. And I think that made it easier because I had a purpose that I felt I went into alignment with, that I knew, I had a knowing that it was the correct direction to go. In the meantime, I just want to hold on for a second because it would be easy to have a victim story around that. Well, there's always some victim. I had some victim story. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to be the person who my daughter was getting ready to go to college, right? all of a
Yeah.
sudden there wasn't any money for her to go to college. It was like gone.